Lisa Harper stood in the center of the giant room, her hands behind her back. The walls around her were made of some kind of crystal that seemed to glow with its own light. 12 different alien species sat in a circle around her, each one looking down at her from their high seats. She was the last human ambassador, and today they would decide what happened to her entire species. The Zephyrians were the first to speak. They were tall and thin, almost like living shadows made of silver light. When they talked, it sounded like music, but the translation device in Lisa's ear turned their words into cold, hard facts. Humanity has been found guilty, the lead Zephyrian said. Its voice echoed in the chamber. Your species is too violent, too dangerous, too unpredictable for civilized space. Lisa wanted to argue, but she knew it would not help. The decision had already been made. The trial had been just for show. The aliens had made up their minds about humans long before today. A creature that looked like a giant insect clicked its mandibles together. The human species will be removed from all inhabited systems, it announced. You will be taken to a world where you can harm no one but yourselves. Lisa felt her heart sink, but she kept her face calm. What world? She asked. The Zephyrian consulted a glowing tablet. Kepler, 438b. Your scientists have already studied it. A death world by any reasonable measure. Miles above the planet Earth. Commander Jake Sullivan received the transmission aboard the human ship called Defiance. The message was short and clear. All humans had to leave Earth within 30 days. They would be taken to Kepler 438b, a planet that most scientists thought could not support life. Jake stared at the data scrolling across his screen. The information about their new home was not good. The atmosphere was mostly poison. Acid rain fell from the sky every few days. The temperature changed from freezing cold to burning hot and back again every single day. The gravity was 3 times stronger than Earth's. Wild animals that could kill a man in seconds roamed the surface. Sir? His communications officer looked at him with worried eyes. What do we tell the evacuation ships? Jake rubbed his tired face. 10,000 people were already packed into cargo ships that were never meant to carry passengers. Families with children, elderly people, workers, soldiers, scientists, all of them depending on him to keep them safe. Tell them we're going to our new home, Jake said finally. Dr. Maya Rodriguez sat in her small cabin looking at the scientific data about Kepler 438b for the 100th time. As the chief scientist for the expedition, she needed to understand what they were facing. The more she read, the more worried she became. The planet was a nightmare. Sulfuric acid fell from the sky like rain. The weather changed without warning, from deadly cold to burning heat. The atmospheric pressure would crush a normal human in minutes without protection. Strange minerals in the ground made the soil toxic to most earth plants. But what scared Maya the most were the life forms. The Alien Council had included some basic information about the creatures that lived on Kepler 438b. Giant predators with armor-like skin. Pack hunters that could smell fear from miles away. Flying creatures with acidic saliva that could melt through metal. Maya closed her eyes and tried to think of solutions. Humans were smart. They were adaptable. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars. Maybe they could find a way to survive this too. Captain Ryan Foster walked through the cargo hold where families huddled together in small groups. Children cried while their parents tried to comfort them. Old people sat quietly, staring at nothing. Everyone knew they were probably going to die on this new world. Ryan had been chosen to lead the first wave of colonists. 10,000 souls, in his care. He had been a soldier for 20 years, but he had never faced anything like this. How do you prepare people for a world that wants to kill them? A little girl tugged on his uniform. She could not have been more than 6 years old. Mister, she said, are the monsters on the new planet going to eat us? Ryan knelt down so he was at her eye level. No, sweetheart, he said gently. We're going to be too tough for any monsters to mess with. The child smiled and ran back to her mother. Ryan wished he felt as confident as he sounded. As the transport ships approached Kepler 438b, everyone gathered around the small windows to get their first look at their new home. The planet was covered in thick, swirling clouds that looked like a permanent storm. Lightning flashed constantly through the atmosphere. The surface was mostly hidden, but what they could see looked like a world made of rock and fire. Ryan activated the ship's communication system. His voice went out to all 10,000 people on the transport ships. "My fellow humans," he began, "I'm not going to lie to you. The world below us is dangerous. The aliens who sent us here expect us to die. They think we're too weak to survive. On a planet like this." He paused and looked out at the storm-wrapped planet. "But they don't know us very well, do they? Humans have survived everything this universe has thrown at us. We've lived through ice and fire and plague and war. We've climbed the highest mountains and crossed the deepest oceans. We've reached for the stars themselves." His voice grew stronger. "They think they're sending us to die. I say we prove them wrong. We're going to build homes on this world. We're going to raise our children here. We're going to show the galaxy what humans can do when they have no choice but to be strong." The ships began their descent through the screaming winds toward the surface of humanity's new home. 5 years had passed since the first humans landed on Kepler 438b. The place they now called New Haven Colony looked nothing like the desperate camp they had built on that first terrible day. Carmen Blake wiped sweat from her forehead as she watched the construction robots weld another section to the growing settlement. Carmen was an engineer, and she had learned to work miracles with whatever materials they could find. The old shipping containers that brought them from Earth had been turned into homes. She connected them with covered walkways so people could move around without being caught in the acid rain that fell every few days. The colony spread across a valley between two tall mountains. Carmen had chosen this spot because the mountains blocked the worst of the storms that raged across the planet. Solar panels covered every roof, soaking up the strange orange light from Kepler 438b's sun. Deep underground, geothermal generators pulled energy from the planet's hot core. "How many people do we have now?" Carmen asked her assistant, a young man named Pete, who had been just a teenager when they arrived. "Almost 12,000, Pete answered. 300 babies born right here on this world." Carmen smiled. Those babies were special. They were the first generation of humans to grow up on Kepler 438b, and they were different from their parents in ways that both amazed and worried the adults. Dr. Nathan Wells spent most of his time in the underground medical center studying these differences. He was the colony's main doctor, and what he had discovered about the children made him wonder if humans were changing faster than anyone thought possible. "Their lung capacity is 30% larger than normal," Nathan explained to Carmen during one of their weekly meetings. "Their hearts are stronger too, and their reflexes are incredible. I've never seen anything like it. The children could run longer and faster than adults. They seemed to know when bad weather was coming hours before the instruments detected it. Some of them could hold their breath for almost 10 minutes. Their eyes had adapted to see better in the strange orange light of their sun. Evolution doesn't work this fast," Nathan said, shaking his head. "But somehow these kids are becoming something new." Alex Turner knew all about the children's abilities because he worked with them every day. As the colony's security chief, Alex led hunting parties into the wilderness to find food and materials. The older children often came with him, and they were better at tracking and hunting than adults who had been soldiers for years. The native animals of Kepler 438b were everything the alien reports had said they would be: deadly, fast, and smart. The rock bears were as big as trucks and had claws that could cut through metal. The sky hunters flew in packs and could spit acid that melted flesh from bones. The tunnel crawlers moved underground and could sense vibrations from miles away. But humans had learned to be more dangerous than any of them. "Remember," Alex told his hunting team as they prepared to track a pack of rock bears, "we're not the biggest or the strongest, but we're smarter, and we work together." The hunting team was made up of 6 adults and 2 teenagers. The teenagers, a girl named Amy and a boy named Luke, had been born on Earth but raised on Kepler 438b. They moved through the rocky terrain like they had been born to it. Amy held up her hand, signaling for the team to stop. 3 bears, she whispered. 2 adults and 1 young. They're about half a mile ahead moving toward the water source. Alex looked through his binoculars but could see nothing. Amy's enhanced senses had detected the bears long before any normal human could have. Spotted them. The hunt was quick and efficient. Humans had learned to use the planet's dangers against its native life. They set traps using the acidic plants that grew near the hot springs. They used the strong gravity to their advantage, dropping heavy rocks from cliffs onto their prey. Most importantly, they worked as a team. Within 2 hours, they had enough meat to feed the colony for a week. Sophie Morgan sat in the communications center, talking to the other human settlements scattered across the planet. What had started as one desperate colony had grown into dozens of thriving communities. Each settlement had found its own way to survive and grow stronger. New Denver reports that their underground farms are producing twice as much food as last year, Sophie told the Colony Council. Port Victory has built their first manufacturing plant. They're making tools and weapons from the native metals. The settlements shared everything they learned. New ways to predict the weather. Better methods for treating acid burns. Designs for buildings that could withstand the planet's violent storms. Most importantly, they shared news about the children. Every settlement reported the same thing. The kids were changing, becoming adapted to their harsh world in ways their parents never could be. They were stronger, faster, smarter, and tougher than any previous generation of humans. Ryan Foster, now the elected governor of New Haven Colony, listened to these reports with mixed feelings. He was proud of what humanity had accomplished, but he also worried about what they were becoming. "We're not the same species that left Earth," he said to his council. 5 years on this world has changed us in ways we're only beginning to understand. Carmen nodded. The question is, what do we do with these changes? Do we try to stay human, or do we embrace what we're becoming? Dr. Nathan had been quiet during most of the meeting, but now he spoke up. I don't think we have a choice. This world is making us into something new, whether we want it or not. The only real question is whether we guide that change, or let it happen randomly. Outside the meeting room, the orange sun was setting behind the mountains. The first drops of acid rain began to fall, sending the colonists indoors for the night. But instead of hiding from their hostile world, they had learned to use its rhythms to their advantage. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new adaptations, and new proof that humanity could thrive anywhere in the universe. The aliens had sent them to die on a Deathworld. Instead, the Deathworld was teaching them to become something more than human. 18 years had passed since humans first arrived on Kepler 438b. What had once been a few desperate camps struggling to survive had become something the aliens never expected. Helen Torres stood in the command center of Fort Liberty, watching displays that showed 47 human settlements spread across the planet. Helen was the planetary defense commander, a job that did not exist when humans first arrived. Back then, they were just trying to stay alive one day at a time. Now they had weapons, ships, and technology that would have seemed impossible during those early years. Fort Liberty was built deep inside a mountain, carved from solid rock by machines that humans had designed and built on this hostile world. The facility had everything needed to coordinate the defense of an entire planet. Radar systems tracked movement across the continents. Communication arrays stayed in contact with every human settlement. Weapon systems could strike targets anywhere on the surface. Status report, Helen said to her assistant, a young woman named Beth who had been born on Kepler 438b. All settlements are green, Beth replied. Mining operations are ahead of schedule. The orbital platform construction is on track for completion next month. Helen nodded. The orbital platform was humanity's most ambitious project yet, a space station built entirely from materials found on their prison planet. When it was finished, humans would have their first permanent presence in space since leaving Earth. Dr. Kevin Price worked in the research lab 3 levels below the command center. As the colony's leading scientist, Kevin studied the changes that were happening to the human population. What he had discovered over the past 18 years amazed even him. The second generation of humans, those born on Kepler 438b, were not just adapted to their world. They were becoming something entirely new. Their bones were denser to handle the heavy gravity. Their blood carried oxygen more efficiently in the thin atmosphere. Their nervous systems processed information faster, allowing them to react to danger in milliseconds. But the changes went deeper than just physical adaptation. The children could work together in ways that seemed almost telepathic. During hunting expeditions, they moved as one unit without speaking or signaling. They seemed to share information instantly, like a hive mind made up of individuals. It's not telepathy, Kevin explained to a group of colony leaders. It's more like they're reading tiny body language cues that the rest of us can't even see. Their brains have learned to process social information at an incredible speed. The third generation, the grandchildren of the original colonists, showed even more dramatic changes. Some of them could see in near total darkness. Others could detect poisonous gases by smell alone. A few seemed to know when the violent storms were coming days before any instrument could predict them. Lisa Carter supervised the mining operations in the northern mountains. What they had found beneath the surface of Kepler 438b made the harsh conditions on the surface seem like a fair trade. The planet was rich beyond anything humans had ever discovered. Rare metals that were worth fortunes in galactic markets lay just beneath the toxic soil. Crystals that could store enormous amounts of energy grew in the deep caves. Most valuable of all were deposits of elements that human scientists had never seen before, materials with properties that opened up entirely new possibilities for technology. The latest survey shows deposits that could supply the entire galaxy for centuries, Lisa reported to the Planetary Council, and we're the only ones who know how to extract them safely. The mining equipment had been designed specifically for Kepler 438b's hostile environment. Machines that could work in acid rain, extreme temperatures, and crushing atmospheric pressure. Technology that no other species possessed because no other species had been forced to develop it. Paul Bennett governed the largest settlement, New Haven City, which now housed over 50,000 people. What had started as shipping containers, connected by walkways, had grown into a metropolis built into the mountainside. Multi-level structures carved from living rock housed families, schools, workshops, and factories. The city was completely self-sufficient. Hydroponic farms produced food in underground caverns. Factories manufactured everything from clothing to complex electronics. The university trained engineers, doctors, and scientists who were solving problems that would challenge the best minds in galactic civilization. We're ready to make contact, Paul announced during a meeting of the Planetary Council. Our communication array is powerful enough to reach the core worlds of the galaxy. The decision had been debated for months. Should humanity reveal that they had not only survived but thrived on their prison planet? Some argued for secrecy, believing they should continue to develop in isolation. Others wanted to announce their success to the galaxy that had condemned them. Captain Nicole Adams made the decision for them. As commander of the first starship built entirely on Kepler 438b, Nicole had the authority to represent humanity beyond their world. The ship she commanded, called Ironclad, was unlike anything in the galactic fleet. Its hull was made from metals found only on Kepler 438b, forged in conditions that would destroy conventional materials. The engines used principles discovered by human scientists working with the planet's unique energy sources. Most impressive of all, it was crewed entirely by second- and third-generation humans who thought of the vacuum of space as just another hostile environment to conquer. This is Captain Nicole Adams of the human vessel Ironclad. She broadcast on frequencies that would reach every major world in the galaxy. 18 years ago, you sent us to die on a world you called uninhabitable. We're calling to let you know we're still here. The message was simple, but its implications were staggering. Humanity had not just survived on their death world. They had built cities, developed new technology, and launched ships that surpassed anything the galactic civilization possessed. On dozens of worlds throughout the galaxy, alien leaders received the transmission with growing alarm. The species they had exiled to eliminate a perceived threat had become a much larger threat than they had ever imagined. General Samantha Cole led a patrol through the wilderness around New Haven City. Her team moved through terrain that would kill most galactic species in minutes, treating it as a routine training exercise. They had tracked and killed a pack of tunnel crawlers, predators that the original colonists had feared above all others. Now the tunnel crawlers were just another source of protein for the growing human population. "Command, this is Colonel Cole," Samantha reported over the radio. "Training exercise complete. No casualties, mission accomplished in half the expected time." What she did not mention was that half her team consisted of teenagers who moved through the hostile environment like they had been born to it. Because they had been. Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrians stood in the emergency session of the Galactic Council, his silver form shimmering with what humans would have recognized as fear. The message from Captain Nicole Adams had reached every major world in the galaxy 3 days ago. Since then, panic had spread through the civilized systems like wildfire. The transmission came from the Kepler 438 system, Veltar announced to the assembled representatives. The humans are not only alive, they appear to have developed spaceflight capability. The insect-like mantid representative clicked its mandibles nervously. Impossible. That world should have killed them within months. Our scientists confirmed it was uninhabitable. "Apparently our scientists were wrong," Veltar replied coldly. A holographic display activated in the center of the chamber, showing the data they had collected about humanity's prison world. What they saw made several council members recoil in horror. Satellite images revealed massive cities built into mountainsides, industrial complexes that stretched for miles, orbital platforms under construction in space above the planet. "How many are there now?" asked the aquatic representative, its voice bubbling through the translation device. "Initial estimates suggest over 2 million humans across 47 major settlements," Veltar answered. "They have turned an entire Deathworld into a thriving civilization." The council chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Species that had existed for thousands of years were suddenly faced with the reality that they had created something beyond their understanding. Dr. Zexhai, the mantid chief scientist, activated another display. "We sent reconnaissance drones to observe their activities. What we discovered is deeply troubling." The images showed human children playing in acid rain without protection, adults working in atmospheric conditions that would kill most galactic species in seconds, hunting parties taking down creatures that were classified as apex predators. "These are not the same humans we exiled," Dr. Zexhai stated. "They have adapted to conditions that should be impossible to survive. Their capabilities appear to exceed our own." On Kepler 438b, Captain Nicole Adams received reports from her patrol ships about alien spy drones detected in the outer system. The ironclad's advanced sensors, designed to work in the planet's harsh electromagnetic environment, easily detected the primitive surveillance devices. "Should we destroy them?" asked her second-in-command, Lieutenant Danny Walsh. Nicole considered the question. Danny was one of the second-generation humans, born on this world and adapted to its challenges. His reflexes were so fast that he could pilot a ship through asteroid fields that would destroy any normal pilot. "No," Nicole decided. "Let them. Watch. Let them see what they created when they tried to destroy us." The ironclad was unlike any ship in the galactic fleet. Its hull was forged from metals that could only be processed in Kepler 438b's extreme conditions. The alloy was lighter than standard materials, but stronger than anything the aliens had ever developed. Weapons systems used principles discovered by human scientists working with the planet's unique energy sources. Most importantly, the ship was crewed by humans who considered the vacuum of space just another hostile environment to master. They moved through cosmic radiation and extreme temperatures without the heavy shielding that other species required. Admiral Chris Murphy commanded a growing fleet of human vessels from the orbital platform above New Haven City. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering born from necessity and forged in conditions that would destroy conventional spacecraft. "Fleet status report," Chris requested from his command staff. 12 heavy cruisers operational, reported his aide, a young woman named Robin who had never seen Earth, but considered the orbital platform her natural home. 4 exploration vessels are mapping the outer system. Construction of the new dreadnought will be complete within 6 months. The dreadnought was humanity's most ambitious project yet. A kilometer-long warship designed to carry the war to any enemy that threatened human space. Its weapons could crack moons, and its defenses could withstand the fire of entire fleets. But the most terrifying aspect of human military development was not their technology. It was their soldiers. General Samantha Cole had become something that would give nightmares to galactic military planners. She could survive in environments that would kill trained soldiers from any other species. Her reflexes were faster than computer-assisted targeting systems. Most frightening of all, she could coordinate with other humans in ways that seemed supernatural. During a demonstration for the Planetary Council, Samantha led a squad through a training exercise that simulated combat in a toxic gas cloud during an acid storm while under heavy gravity. Her team moved like a single organism, each member anticipating the other's actions without visible communication. Time to completion, 4 minutes 12 seconds, announced the timekeeper. Previous record by galactic standards, impossible. The Galactic Council received regular updates about human capabilities from their spy drones. Each report was more alarming than the last. Humans working in conditions that would require full environmental suits for other species. Construction projects that defied conventional engineering. Most disturbing of all, evidence that the human population was still changing and adapting. They are becoming something beyond our current understanding, reported Dr. Zexhai to an emergency council session. Their children show capabilities that exceed their parents. Each generation is more adapted to extreme conditions than the last. The aquatic representative raised a concern that had been growing in the minds of all council members. What happens when they decide to leave their world? What happens when they come looking for us? The question hung in the chamber like a death sentence. The same species they had exiled to prevent future conflict had become a threat beyond their worst fears. Ambassador Veltar activated the final piece of intelligence they had gathered, a recording of human transmissions between their settlements. The content was routine logistics and family communications, but the implications were staggering. They are planning expansion, Veltar announced. References to new worlds and galactic territories appear frequently in their communications. They are not content to remain on one planet. The council fell silent as the full scope of their mistake became clear. They had intended to eliminate humanity by sending them to a world that would kill them. Instead, they had given humanity 18 years to become something far more dangerous than they had ever been on Earth. In the outer system of Kepler 438, human exploration ships began mapping jump routes to other star systems. The galaxy that had condemned humanity was about to discover what they had created in the crucible of a Deathworld. The Galactic Council chambers looked exactly the same as they had 25 years ago, when humanity was sentenced to exile. The same crystal walls glowed with cold light. The same 12 species sat in their high seats, looking down at the center of the room. But everything else had changed. Elena Rodriguez stood where Lisa Harper had stood all those years ago. But Elena was not there as a condemned prisoner begging for mercy. She was there as humanity's chosen representative, backed by the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. Elena had been Dr. Maya Rodriguez during the exile, the chief scientist who had studied the Deathworld that was supposed to kill her species. Now she was Ambassador Rodriguez, speaking for 2 million humans who had turned that Deathworld into their greatest strength. Honored council members, Elena began, her voice calm and confident. 25 years ago, you gathered in this chamber to pass judgment on humanity. Today, I stand here to discuss the future of galactic civilization. Ambassador Veltar shifted nervously in his seat. Through the chamber's windows, he could see the human fleet that had escorted Elena to this meeting. 30 ships unlike anything in the galactic registry. Vessels forged in the hellish conditions of Kepler 438b, crewed by beings who considered hostile environments their natural home. Fleet Admiral Tony Marshall commanded the human battle group from the bridge of the dreadnought Defiant. The ship was 3 times larger than the biggest vessel in the galactic fleet. Its hull made from materials that could withstand pressures and temperatures that would destroy conventional spacecraft. All ships report ready status, announced his communications officer, a young man named Gary who had been born in the orbital shipyards above Kepler 438b. The council station is completely surrounded. Tony nodded. The demonstration was not meant as a threat, but as a simple statement of fact. Humanity now possessed the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. Ships that could travel faster, fight harder, and survive longer than anything their former captors could build. But the real power was not in the ships themselves. It was in their crews. Captain Linda Foster commanded the heavy cruiser, resilient with a team of officers who represented everything humanity had become. Her tactical officer could process combat information faster than most computers. Her engineering team could repair damage that would cripple other ships. Most importantly, they worked together with a coordination that seemed impossible to outside observers. Captain, reported her sensor operator, a second-generation human named Mark who had never breathed natural atmosphere. The alien defense platforms are powering up their weapons. Linda smiled coldly. Let them. Their weapons can't penetrate our shields, and they know it. The human ships had been tested in the most hostile environment in known space. Radiation that would fry galactic electronics, gravitational forces that would crush conventional hulls, and energy fields that would overload standard power systems. After surviving Kepler 438b, the weapons of galactic civilization seemed almost primitive. In the council chamber, Elena continued her address to the increasingly nervous alien representatives. You sent us to die because you feared our potential for violence, she said. You were right to fear us, but not for the reasons you thought. You were afraid of what we might become. What you should have feared was what you would make us become. President. Kate Wilson watched the proceedings from the command center on Kepler 438b. As the elected leader of humanity, Kate had authorized this mission to the galactic core worlds. The decision had not been made lightly, but the time for hiding was over. Status report from the fleet, Kate requested from her staff. All ships operational, replied her military advisor, Colonel Steve Barnes. Admiral Marshall reports the alien defense grid is no match for our technology. We could take control of their entire system within hours if necessary. Kate nodded. That was exactly the message they wanted to send. Humanity was no longer the species that could be pushed around and exiled to die on unwanted worlds. They had become something the galaxy had never seen before. Dr. Andrew Foster, son of the original Captain Ryan Foster, established the first human embassy on the Zephyrian homeworld. The building was designed to showcase human adaptation and technology. Its walls were made from materials that could only be processed on Kepler 438b. Its environmental systems maintained conditions that would be deadly to most species, but were comfortable for humans. The Zephyrians have agreed to our terms, Andrew reported to President Wilson. Full recognition of human territorial claims, trade agreements favorable to our interests, and most importantly, a formal apology for the attempted genocide. Similar embassies were being established on every major world in galactic civilization, not as humble petitioners seeking acceptance, but as representatives of the new dominant power. In the council chamber, Elena delivered her final statement. 25. Years ago, you tried to solve what you saw as the human problem by sending us away to die. Instead, you gave us the greatest gift possible. You gave us a world that demanded we become more than we ever imagined we could be. She paused and looked directly at Ambassador Veltar. You were right that humans are dangerous. We are adaptable, aggressive, and unpredictable, but we are also fair. We don't seek revenge for what you tried to do to us. We seek justice. Elena activated a holographic display showing the new territorial boundaries that humanity was claiming. Entire sectors of space that included some of the richest worlds in the galaxy. These systems will now be under human protection, she announced. Any species that wishes to continue trade and diplomatic relations with humanity will respect these boundaries. Those who do not will learn why you were afraid of us in the first place. The Galactic Council voted unanimously to accept humanity's terms. They had no choice. The species they had tried to eliminate had become their masters. Years later, historians would mark this day as the end of the old galactic order and the beginning of the human age. The exile to Kepler 438b, intended as an execution, had instead become humanity's graduation to galactic dominance. Children born on dozens of worlds would grow up learning about the Deathworld that had forged the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. And on Kepler 438b itself, new generations of humans continued to adapt and evolve, always ready for whatever challenges the universe might send their way. The aliens had tried to exile humanity to a death world. Instead, they had given birth to humanity's galactic empire,